The story starts with a mafia head tying up a teenage girl for her father's debt. He speaks about how 1988 was a good year for them when they could sell girls to the red light district easily. He is looking for this girl's father now. He gets a call hoping his minions found her father, but they inform him about a guy who came back to life after unliving him twice. The guy is now standing in their base holding a stick. Then the mafia men all rush toward him to beat him up. The story's protagonist, name is Hwan Suk. He is 29 years old. He is now dying, after getting stabbed multiple times by the mafia's men. They then drop him in the river. Suk wishes that, even for just one moment, he could live like a proper human, or at least get a job. 16 hours before the incident, Suk is gaming inside his room. Then a high school girl knocks at the door for their shared water bill. But he hands over 2 expensive cigarette packs instead, as he does not have any cash with him. She then throws the cigarettes away and gives him a candy. She tells him to quit smoking. Suk thinks she is surprisingly a sweet high schooler, despite her feisty demeanor. Since high school, Suk has been very rebellious and short-tempered. He cannot tolerate rude and irrational people, thus he overreacts. He cannot even get a good job because he graduated from some third-class university. Suk has a small dream. He just wants to pay off his debts, pay his rent, and not starve. He realizes being 30 with no experience is very scary. On the way to his home, 2 mafia minions are kicking in that high school girl's door, telling her to come out. They have been doing it for 2 weeks every day now. As she is not coming out, they cut the gas line and insert the pipe inside her room. Suk then intervenes and they fight. The minions then stab Suk multiple times. They drop him into a river on the day of 1st April, Friday. After 3 days, on the April 4th, Suk wakes up in his room. The high school girl witnesses them stabbing Suk through her door's looking glass. A small backstory of Suk. Suk had always been short-tempered since young. Thus he went through troubles at school many times. However, his father always supported him because his rebellion had fair reasons. His father told him that if he did nothing wrong, then he should be confident. That's the only thing his father taught him. His father worked at a factory, so father and son often used to go home together after work. His father was a good captain, judging from how his colleagues used to treat him. His mother unlived when Suk was very young, so his father raised him alone. It must have been hard, but he never showed it in his face. Suddenly at the factory, Suk notices some smoke. He alerts his father about it. Knowing the danger, they all evacuate the factory. However, some workers still remained inside. His father rushed inside to save them. He went back and forth 5 times to save those 5 workers. His father later unlives due to inhaling that toxic gas so much. They had informed the factory chief to repair the tanks before multiple times, but they did not listen to them to save money from repairing. Now they are blaming the captain, Suk's father, for negligence in supervision, because as he is gone now and has a little son, he is an easy target to frame the tragic incident on. Suk and everyone there believes his unalive was honorable since he has unlived saving 5 people. Suk now is unliving. He has regrets that he is going away without any purpose in life. Unlike his father, he wishes that he could at least have a job. On the April 4th, he wakes up panting in his apartment room, as if he had a nightmare. He checks his stomach, where he was stabbed earlier, but there was no wound. That day around afternoon, he is smoking in the apartment veranda. The high school girl is shocked to see him alive. Suk thought the girl would ask about the water bill again, but the girl starts sobbing. There are still blood stains there from 3 days ago. The girl asks him if he is really alive. Being confused by such a question, Suk just tells her to come with him because he will give her his share of water bill. At a shop in front of an ATM machine, he is there to cash out from his savings. He is sad that he can hear his credit score drop. The girl taps on the cancel option and takes out his debit card. She asks him why he is using the cash service. Before letting him answer, she breaks the card in half. Suk becomes furious about why she broke it. She asks if he doesn't know that using this kind of service too much will cause his credit scores to drop so low that he will not be able to get a small loan. What kind of person uses this service to pay water bills? She then asks what he is going to eat. It is on her but should not surpass 1300 won. She treats him to ramen. She asks him, even though he has an able body, why he lives like a loser doing nothing. She tells him to work and suggests to not owe each other anything, Then she leaves. But she forgets her textbook on the table. Later, Suk goes to return her textbook. On the way home, those gangster men grab her from behind. They came after her for her father. Then they ask her if she had seen them unaliving her neighbor, Suk, 3 days ago. Suk arrives there. Those two minions are terrified seeing him, as if they saw a ghost. How is he still alive? The girl screams for help. Then one of them punches her in the stomach. She falls down and those two mafia men run off. Suk helps her get up, then he runs after them, despite her trying to stop him. Suk picks up 2 rocks and throws at them, hitting right at their heads. The guy who stabbed Suk last time goes again to stab him. Suk laughs and says that he is doing the same thing as he did in his dream, but Suk gets to protect his stomach using the thick textbook. Suk then kicks and punches him non-stop. As they were fighting under a construction site, heavy pipes and would fall on them from above, making a huge crashing noise. There is no way they can survive such an accident. 2 days later, on the 7th of April, Suk again wakes up in his apartment room. Suk finds it odd. He cannot believe that he had another dream like that. He wonders if he is sick. While browsing the internet, he notices a news. His eyes widen reading it. 2 men died at the construction site. Suk wonders if those dreams were actual realities. He gets up to head to the construction site to check how and what really happened there. Then his phone rings. The person on the call says that they have been trying to reach Suk for 3 days, but he never answered. Suk looks at the calendar. Today is the 7th of April. The person then congratulates him. He is hired at CYT Korea and asks if he can come to the office today. His eyes seem to see a light of hope. At CYT Korea, his boss, whom he will be working under, is showing Suk around the workplace. She says that they have a very flexible working environment. Sitting around all day, stuck on a desk all day doesn't necessarily guarantee high efficiency. So the workers here come and go as they want as long as they do not miss the meetings. Suk asks her if there was no mistake, why would a company like this even want to hire someone like him? Then she says that she liked how confidently he showed them the middle finger in the interview when they were asking nonsense questions. She then says that choosing him was kind of controversial. The essay Suk wrote in his resume about how he purposely failed his Korean SAT and went to a community college to express his anger towards the system in this country, and about how he quitted his part-time jobs because of some jerk customers and bosses. They thought it was a joke at first, but one person thought this was the most honest essay that reflected Suk's life. Suk asks about the person. The boss says this is a French company and the CEO is also a French. She thinks the CEO could relate to Suk's story. Suk wonders how a foreigner could relate to his life. She continues that 3 years ago, to open a new branch in Korea, CEO came to take training from a big company in Korea. He was really shocked about Koreans' working culture, which does not let employees express themselves, being afraid of the boss, overworking but how low the payment is. The unfair authoritarianism. That is probably why the CEO loved his essay so much. He thinks Suk is someone who is always confident in any situation. She says the CEO has high expectations from him, so does she. Suk suddenly feels confident and charismatically tells her that they will not ever regret hiring a gem like him. On his way home, Suk still cannot believe he got hired into a big company and his boss is a hot woman. He then noticed a man knocking loudly on that high school girl's door. Suk finds the situation familiar, and without thinking much, he punches the man. He falls on the ground. But the man introduces himself that he is a teacher, and he asks Suk if he knows a student named Yeren Cha who lives in this place. Suk immediately apologizes for punching the good teacher. Suk says that he kind of knows the student. What's the matter? The teacher says that she has not come to school for 3 days. He was worried, so he came to check on her. Suk remembers that 3 days ago, he saw her being kidnapped. Suk forcibly tries to open the girl's apartment door. The door opens. Her apartment is in a messy state as if a robber broke in. At that moment, the mafia's minion, one of the guys, who saw Suk unliving, is taken aback to see Suk alive again. The mafia boss has tied up the girl hanging in his base. He decides to sell Yeren to Southeast Asia as revenge and talks about the loser, Suk, who has unlived in the construction site. He says they should dig that guy from the grave and chop him up. The mafia then gets a call. He asks if they have found Yeren's father. Rather, he gets a shocking news that Suk has again survived. Suk is furious. He knows who took Yeren away. Suk and the good teacher go to the police to report a missing case. Suk tells the police everything he knows, but they seem to not want to file the case as Suk did not witness the kidnapping himself. Then suddenly another officer, Detective O, hits Suk's head being mad. What did Suk do this time to be in the police station? He abruptly assumes that he harassed the teacher, thus came to complain. Suk is pissed off. Then the police, Detective Han, explains everything to the Detective O. He then checks the address of the girl. He asks Suk if he saw her getting kidnapped with his own eyes. Suk becomes furious that they are not believing him. But Detective O does not budge. He orders the police to delete the case report and to send them home. Suk furiously says that the girl was kidnapped. Then Detective O says that Yaren's dad, Hyung Sik Cha, is an alcoholic, so it is not the first time they got this kind of report from that address. He states that it is obvious she ran away from home being frustrated. Detective O is sending the case to the juvenile division as she did not go to school for 3 days. He is basically neglecting this case and brushing them off, saying Yaren is probably just fine. Then Suk and Detective O get into a heated argument. Then Detective Han tries to have a word with Detective O about it. He says it might really be a kidnapping case as that neighborhood is very sketchy and there were 2 unliving victims as well. Detective O says that they don't really know if it is actually a kidnapping case, and filing it as one will cause them trouble because at the beginning of the year, the mayor, the ward chief, and the police chief started increasing surveillance cameras and control agents to make the city crimeless. They have to report the progress next week, so he suggests staying low so that they do not mess up with their promotion. Suk listens to everything. Then he goes berserk there, messing and breaking things up. Then Suk's friend comes to take him away. At Yaren's, the high school girl's apartment room, Suk realizes after telling the police about everything that whatever happened was not a dream. But how is he still alive? He walks around the messy room. When about to leave, he notices Yaren's phone ringing. Suk picks up the call. A call from the kidnapper. Thinking it is Yaren's dad on the call, the mafia boss sends a picture of Yaren hanging tied up. The mafia boss tells him to get the rest of the money and come to his office in front of the station if he does not want his daughter to be sold to Southeast Asia. At the mafia base, the mafia boss plans to sell off Yaren's father's organ as there is no way he can manage that much money. On the other hand, the minion who saw Suk coming back to life, he tells his boss about it, but the boss does not believe him. At that moment, Suk comes in loudly slamming the door, almost breaking it. The minion recognizes him. In panic, he says that he is one who unlived at the construction site 3 days ago. The mafia boss asks, how did he survive such an accident? Suk responds he has revived and swings the metal pipe he brought with him. He swings the pipe and hits one of the minions hard. All the other minions rush at him with bats and sticks in their hands. To everyone's surprise, unlike his confident demeanor, Suk is not good at fighting, so he is getting beaten up real bad now. The mafia boss asks him why he's going so far for the high school girl. Is he dating a minor or something? He says even though he did not want to care about her, he did not even know her name till yesterday. He wants to be a good adult at least. He says that while holding the knife in the mafia's throat which he hid in his pants. The mafia boss says he is aiming at the wrong spot. He cannot unlive him like that. Then he abruptly moves forward, having the knife cut his non-vital spot of the throat, getting Suk off guard. The boss hits Suk's face with his back of the head. The boss grabs the ashtray and breaks it in Suk's head. Suk faints and falls. The mafia boss then orders his men to take Suk in the car. One minion lifts him up and notices that he has metal pads all over his body. The mafia boss and the men are going somewhere, taking Suk behind the car. The minion who was at incident 3 days ago is looking glum. One of the minions asks him about it. He says he does not understand how Suk is still alive after one of him men unlived him. Then the minion says that Sung-hoon, the one who had unlived with Suk 3 days ago, had stabbed Suk about a week ago too, and they dropped Suk in the river. He does not understand how he managed to survive those 2 fatal incidents. In the meantime, Suk in the back manages to light a lighter to burn up the rope tied in his wrist and unties himself. Suk gets up slowly, wraps the rope around that minion's neck and chokes him. The car loses its balance and falls off the bridge. The car behind, where the mafia boss is, he notices the accident. Everyone at the car with Suk unlives. It makes it to the next day's news. The mafia boss is angry that many of his men have been unlived because of Suk. However, the mafia boss is still looking for Yaren's father, but he has not been found. while they are arguing about what to do with Yeren to get rid of their troublesome evidence. Suk slams their door. They cannot believe their eyes. How is he still alive? Suk tells them that he has found out something interesting. On the day of the incident, on the 80th of April, Suk relives the drowning sensation he had when he first unlived. He feels confident that he will be revived again after 3 days. However, what if he cannot revive this time? He panics and tries to get out of the car, but it's too late now. He is unliving. Exactly 3 days later, on the 11th of April, he again woke up in his apartment. He looks at the calendar. He finally believes it that whatever is happening, the phenomenon of him unliving then reviving 3 days later is real. Then he starts laughing as if he's gone mad. Now back to the mafia's base. The boss is furious seeing Suk that all of his men are unlived, but how is he alive? He orders his leftover minions to attack him. But cool and confident Suk tells them to pause. He brings out something that looks like a DIY bomb, lights it with his cigarette and tosses it at them. The mafia boss assumes that it is just a Molotov cocktail, but to their surprise, it is butane fuel gas. It explodes, fire spreads among the men, and the boss is injured. He orders his half of the men to put out the fire and another half to unlive Suk. But Suk has brought more fuel gas with him. He is not scared of anything anymore. He is now lighting up another gas can. He asks if the mafia boss is scared. Suk tells them that he has just started, then tosses another gas can at the mafia boss. Then a strong-looking man, one of his people, slaps it away out of the window. He is pretty intimidating and strong, unlike other minions. Suk is nervous seeing him standing close to him. The guy says he will hand over the teenage girl to him. He tells Suk to follow him. But the mafia boss gets angry at him about making decisions by himself when the mafia boss is standing right there. Then the strong guy tells him to calm down and look out of the window. There are people gathering, some calling the cops because of the commotion here. He says the cops are going to barge in soon. He suggests they make it a simple gas accident. Cops are onto them already because of other accidents, so if they find about the illegal bonds and a kidnapped girl, they are done completely. Suk then sneaks into the conversation with a smirk. Then he confidently tells him to get to the girl, but only the strong guy, referring him as Baldy, can come with him. He wonders where the heck does this guy get so much confidence from. At the place where Yeren is at, there are minions placed there. They start to have bad intentions towards Yeren. One of them even approaches her. When he cuts the ropes tying her legs, she kicks him in the balls and runs off. Suk and the strong guy have come to some remote place. Suk thought they had come to where Yeren is, but the strong guy puts on a brass knuckle and punches Suk in the face. He faints immediately. In the meantime, Yeren is being chased by other minions. While punching Suk non-stop, he realizes that Suk is not breathing anymore. So he gets ready to bury him. A brief backstory of Yeren. Her father's business goes into bankruptcy, and they end up in huge debts. So the gangsters keep on barging in, messing things up in their house. Yeren becomes sick of all these, that her father always put up with it, not doing anything about it. He does not even go to the police. So being frustrated, Yeren leaves the house. Later, she could only realize when she was all alone, why her dad had to live like that, why they could not get away from them, and how scary the world can be. There are monsters in this world who cannot possibly be human beings. Yeren is now being chased by such monsters inside a forest. She reaches the highway and comes across a car. She feels relieved seeing the car. She goes by the car window for help, but there was another monster sitting there, the strong guy. He gets out and starts kicking the minions. He is angry that they tried to touch the girl, and now she's trying to run away. Yeren feels hopeless in this situation, that she can never get away from them. Then suddenly the car starts moving, hitting the strong guy. Suk gets out of the car in a bloody appearance. He tells Yeren to not cry anymore, because he is here now. Yeren's eyes see a light of hope. Suk unties the rope and frees Yeren. Yeren then hugs Suk, bursting into tears thanking him. Suk notices the deep marks in her hands caused by the tight ropes. The other two minions call out to their boss, the strong guy who is lying on the ground. They are scared of Suk, who looks like a tough, scary person, with all the blood in his face. They get intimidated by his glare. However, he walks to the car, gets Yeren in and drives away. The minions feel that they are screwed now. The strong guy is staring at the car, pretending to pass out. They reach their apartment. Suk tells her to not think about anything and to just go to bed. and that he is going to the police station now. Yeren says to go to hospital now because of Suk's condition. Suk says not to worry as he does not unlive. Suk passes by the police station. He thinks to himself that the harassment will not be over unless he unlives them. He drags a gas cylinder inside the mafia boss's office. He is determined to blow them all up along with him. However, there is no one at the office. The strong guy suddenly attacks him from behind. Suk blacks out. He wakes up again in his apartment room 3 days later. On the 14th of April, he had unlived that day. He becomes worried about Yeren. He rushes outside and sees her room is locked by the police. A gathering of neighbors in the front. There are news reporters outside of her apartment as if something big happened here. The reporter says, "This is the house of Missa. The house is messy and there are footprints everywhere. It is clear that someone broke into the house." The police believe that this might be directly related to why Miss A jumped out of the roof. Miss A was carried right away to the hospital by paramedics, and currently, her chance of survival is unclear. In the hospital, Suk rushes to her bedchamber. He thinks to himself that it is impossible for her to stay in her room that day because on 11th April, Suk gave Yeren his apartment key. He told her that, as the gangsters know where she lives, it is better to not go to her house that night. There are some cash on his desk, so he told her to take that and hide in a sauna, so it's impossible for her to get caught by them because she was supposed to be at a sauna. He tries to get inside the ICU, where Yeren is at the moment, but nurses do not let him in because of regulation. He does not understand why and how did this happen. On April 11th, Yeren does go to Suk's room as he instructed. She takes the cash like he told her to as well. However, seeing how messy his place was, she gets into her cleaning spree and tidies up the whole room. She then tears up remembering what he has done for her. She is very thankful. Then she hears some noises outside. The mafia men have come to look for her. They are messing up her room next door. Yeren is petrified. They are talking amongst themselves that their people are everywhere looking for her now. Cafe, PC room, sauna, school, police station alley, everywhere. She will get caught tonight for sure. At that critical moment, the landlady comes inside Suk's room to neg about his rent and all. She encounters Yeren inside. She starts shouting why is she at a man's apartment, calling her names, then dragging her out of the room. Listening to such loud noises, the mafia men come out and encounter Yeren. She then runs to the roof. The men chase after her. She cries out for help from the roof. Even though everyone hears the cry for help, they feign ignorance. Even after turning their lights on, they turn them off. The mafia boss arrives there. He asks her if she knows how people like them can still live in the society. He answers it is because the society lets them do whatever they do. He continues about the people who are not well off. They are too busy securing their own meals to care about others. He says it is a wise way to live because those who do not know their place end up becoming like this, showing her a picture of Suk, probably getting dissolved in the drum of acid. The mafia boss says to blame Suk for what the worst is going to happen to her now. She then gets up and jumps from the roof. The incident is on the news now. Suk is now blaming himself for this. He thinks he was so preoccupied with getting rid of those guys that he did not consider Yeren's safety at all. At the hospital, the big strong guy comes out the elevator while Suk is just leaving in another elevator while blaming himself for the tragedy. He is now standing beside Yeren's bedchamber. The mafia boss was tense about cops knowing. They have gotten rid of all the evidence, but if Yeren wakes up, it will be a big trouble for them. Then the strong guy reassures his boss that he will take care of it. That's why he is here. He is now about to stab Yeren. In the meantime, Suk is on the roof self-blaming while smoking. There are some doctors too taking a break. One of them start complaining about taking Yeren's case because her incident is causing trouble at the hospital, plus she doesn't have a guardian to pay for her hospital bills. He doesn't think she will survive, so he hopes her to just unlive before causing more trouble. Suk becomes angry and is walking towards them to beat them up. Then another doctor scolds them for leaving their patients alone. They ask if it's an emergency or something. The doctor says Yeren's guardian is here. He seems to just assume some random guy who walked inside her room as her guardian, who is bald and tall. Hearing that, Suk rushes down to Yeren's room. He is again self-blaming that he did not consider that those people could come here for her. He opens the door, but no one is there. Turns out there was an emergency alarm that went off earlier, so the bald guy could not unlive her because the nurses came in and they rushed her to the operating room. That guy is hiding in the side. He gets a call from his boss about the update here. He sees Suk there, alive and well. While the doctor in charge complains about letting her into the operating room as she has no guardian and all, Suk snatches the file from the nurse and signs there as her guardian. He then threatens them to save her. If she unlives, they unlive as well. Suk is walking towards the strong guy. The guy is very shocked to see him. Suk threatens he will take care of them one by one, breaking them into pieces. The bald guy is taken aback seeing Suk very alive and well standing in front of him, when he himself unlived him and dissolved his body with his own hands few days ago. Then a nurse intervenes and tells Suk, as Yaren's guardian, to come with her to the reception and talk about the procedures. Suk is heading there. He tells the bald guy to just leave for today as Suk is busy now. He will destroy all of them soon anyway. Suk is sitting beside Yaren's bed. He noticed how clean his apartment is earlier. He figured that Yaren stayed there to clean. It was dangerous for her to stay there for too long. He tears up saying that that was stupid. The doctors have told him that Yaren's organs were seriously injured and was bleeding a lot, so they told him to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. Suk becomes frustrated that Yaren does not deserve any of these. Why does she have to suffer and unlive because of them? Then he gets a message from his workplace, the CYT Korea. The orientation will start at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Suk forgot that he has a job now. He feels the need for a change now. He goes to a hair salon. He tells the hairdresser to give him a look that will make him look stronger. Suk goes to his workplace with his new red hair look earlier than scheduled. He hands over his resignation papers to his boss, as he won't be able to work there anymore. His boss is surprised as he looked like someone who really needed the job, but he is resigning now before even starting. He tells her that he has something to take care of first. At the gangster's place, he is now entering their base holding a hammer. They can unlive unlike Suk, so he is determined to show them how unfair it is to be able to unlive. At the mafia office, the bald minion informs his boss that Suk is still alive. He realizes if Suk is alive that it would be pointless to just get rid of Yaren. The boss doubts if his bald minion really unlived him back then. He says he had unlived him with his own hands and even checked well later. He thinks there is something weird about him. Suk has already been unlived twice before by their men, and this is the fourth time he came back to life. The boss says if Suk is actually Jesus Christ or something. Then the boss gets a call from a man named Minhyuk Kim. Seeing that he starts to sweat, he is too nervous to pick up the call. Mr. Kim says he is enjoying the news lately, implying he is not pleased with what they are doing now. The man orders the boss to meet him because he has something to tell him. The boss is scared and nervous. He says he is screwed that Mr. Kim wants to meet him. The bald man calmly says that it is okay. He measures his boss that everything will be taken care of today. He says he will not unlive Suk this time. He is going to torture him to find out what he really is, then grind him and feed him to the pigs. The boss orders to make Suk feel the pain a human being can feel. The mafia boss is now on his way to get into his car to meet Mr. Kim. At that moment, Suk hits him in the head from behind. He falls on the ground. Suk asks him what took him so long to come down here. He has been waiting. Suk ties the boss up and drives his car to go somewhere. When the boss making a fuss inside the car, Suk again hits his head telling him to read the room. Suk says he has thought really hard last night. He figured that it will not end if he just keeps attacking them randomly, so he has decided to get rid of them one by one, starting from the head, the mafia boss. Suk tells him that he should be more worried because he will make him suffer much more than the teenager Yaren has suffered. The boss laughs at this. He mocks him saying his men are already following him. Suk did not notice them following their car. The boss says it is because he installed a tracking app in there and his phone, which he initially installed to keep his eye on his minions. Suk speeds up. The boss says that this is pointless as he is surely going to get caught and all. Then this time Suk laughs and says he cannot believe things are going so well like this for him. Surprised, boss asks what does he mean by things are going well? Then Suk abruptly stops over the highway bridge. The cars following it bumps into the car real hard, causing a massive accident. Ordinary civilian cars start to gather there. They notice that almost all of them are severely wounded or have unlived. Suk is dragging the boss by his hair. Suk thought they all be unlived together, but the boss's imported car's airbag worked well to save them. Suk say that thanks to his tracking app, he got to unlive all of his men. Now he has to think how he is going to unlive the boss, while dragging him towards the edge of the bridge. Suk says that Yaren fell from such a height and is now at a hospital cause of him. It is only fair if he does the same to him. Suk is pushing him at the edge. Terrified boss makes plea that he will not go after Yaren anymore. He also offers him money, as much he wants, then Suk punches him. He says they should not have harassed her in the first place. The boss says they knew the family do not have any more money, but they did what their boss told them to do. CEO Kim, the man told them to deal with Yaren's father. Suk is getting tired of his yapping and pushes him more to the edge. At that moment, the bald man stabs Suk on his shoulder. Suk somehow gets himself together and hits the bald man in the head with a wrench. Suk almost forgot about this tough bald man, so he thinks if he gets rid of these two now, it will be all over. Then Suk swings the wrench at him, but he dodges it. Then he lands a punch on Suk's face. He swings the knife at his face, cutting his face. Suk is very unfazed about it and glims a smile at him. The bald man is taken aback by this. The mafia boss then suddenly moves the bald man to stab Suk, but the bald man blocks the striking knife with his arm. Getting stabbed in the process, he tells his boss that something is wrong with Suk. Then they notice ordinary citizens there are taking videos and pictures of them. Suk laughs that they are done now. His minions are all gone and their faces are all over the internet. Things cannot get any better. The bald man thinks to himself that all of that about him coming back to life was just his delusion. Nobody can come back to life after unliving once. He goes to stab Suk again. But to his surprise, Suk jumps from the bridge. He says with a smile while falling from the bridge that he will see them again in 3 days. Those two stabbing video clips spread all over the country. So does Suk's jumping from the bridge video clip, making a news. The police suspect that they are the gangsters based in Jongyang, a place in Seoul. Police has decided to ask for the public's help to find the suspects. Mr. Kim hears the news. He seems annoyed. He orders his secretary, Chief Cho, to find the mafia boss and his bald man before the police do. The wanted flyers of the boss and his bald man is everywhere. The mafia boss is on the move to flee the country through a smuggling boat. He is now waiting for his bald man to come with his money. The boss gets mad because his man arrives there late with the money and a gun. The boss again gets angry that that was not all the money he possessed. The bald man says that is all he could withdraw because the cops have blocked all the accounts under their name. The mighty mafia boss is frustrated how and why he has ended up like this. He is furious at Suk. Then upon seeing the gun inside the money bag, he questions why. The bald man says that the smugglers are more ruthless than they are, who are gangsters. Betraying people on the boat and unliving them is just a daily routine for them, so he brought a gun just in case, for his boss's safety. They are heading to the smuggling boat, which is coming in 10 minutes. The boss asks his bald man if he wants to come with him too. The bald man says their boys are all in hospital right now, so someone has to stay behind to keep their mouths shut, and he also wants to see Suk to the end. Then he gets a call from the boss's phone, whose gold-rimmed smartphone has been lost. When the boss whines about losing his phone, the bald man lies to him that the police have found them. He says he will lure them away so the boss can leave safely. Then he runs in the opposite direction. He knows what's up. Turns out Suk had the boss's phone, and he has tracked them through the tracker installed there. Suk has again resurrected. Suk asks where the boss is, and he has come to return his phone. The bald man says he was just unlucky that he did not know there was a person who could come back to life from unliving in 3 days. Suk says he wants to correct him that it is not him just being unlucky, they caused all these. If they had not tried to harass Yaren, Suk would not have found out about this power he has. Then Suk brings out a wrench from his suit and rushes at him, but the bald man shoots him non-stop. Suk falls on the ground. Pointing the gun in his face, he tells Suk that if he destroys his cerebellum, he will not be able to move at all forever, but he would not unlive, then he can neither unlive nor live. The mafia boss arrives at the port, where the smuggling boat is. The smugglers mock him about how a powerful mafia like him ended up like this. He gets annoyed and threatens to beat them up. Then he hands them over 30 million won. Looking at the gun inside the bag, he feels assured and relieved. He asks them if there will be any problem. They reassure him about it that Chinese are waiting for them at the southern high seas. Once the boat starts departing, the boss can just take a nap until it arrives at Shanghai. After that, he can get on the trade ship to the Philippines and say goodbye to Korea. The smuggler boss orders his men to take good care of him on the boat as the mafia boss is a very important guest. The boat departs. The smuggler boss phones Chief Cho, CEO Kim's secretary. On the phone, he says that he has set it up as she has ordered them and tells her to give his best regards to the CEO Kim, while grinning. In the meantime, the bald man and Suk are fighting. While lying on the ground with the bald man's foot in his face, Suk tells him that he talks too much. The bald man should have just shot him instead of babbling. The bald man then responds that he has enough bullets anyway. Suk forcibly moves the arm away which was pointing the gun at him, then hits the bald man's injured arm with his wrench. Suk gets up but falls again because of the pain from the gunshot. He cannot feel his body. The bald man is walking towards him. Suk says he is done for today, then brings out a knife and stabs his neck to unlive himself. He will come back again in 3 days anyway. The bald guy quickly checks his pulse. Suk has not unlived yet. The bald man tries to stop his bleeding, but to his surprise, Suk sprays lighter fluid on the bald man's face. Suk chuckles, saying his unlive act was fake. Cannot really waste a life now, can he? Then he lights the bald man on fire. In desperation to live, the bald man jumps in the sea. After putting off the fire, he tries to get back on the port, but he sees a gun pointing at him. Suk also lights himself on fire, and now he is pointing the gun at the bald man. When Suk is about to shoot the baldy man, the mafia boss's boat comes across them, him staring at them. The mafia boss is sweating and his cigarette falls from his mouth. Suk then steps on the baldy man's bald head to get on that boat, while his body is still on fire. Suk falls on the boat and quickly takes his burning shirt off. Suk asks the mafia boss where he is going. He needs to finish what he has started. The mafia boss brings out the gun and shoots at him. Suk dodges this time. He is annoyed that the boss also has a gun. The smuggler men inside the boat hear the commotion happening outside, hearing that they start to set up a bomb inside quickly instead of waiting for another hour as their leader previously instructed them to, and they get out of the boat quickly. While shooting, the mafia boss runs out of ammo. Suk then shoves his gun inside the boss's mouth. Suk tells him that he should not shoot with one hand. This is what he should do to aim properly. The bald man suddenly gets on the boat and headlocks Suk. Suk's grip loses the gun. The mafia boss picks it up and orders his bald man to hold Suk properly. He says he is going to unlive him for real this time. The bald man shouts to not do it because Suk will come back again. However, the mafia boss fires aimlessly and shoots his bald man along with Suk. They both fall in the river. The mafia boss seems to not even care about his own men. He is alive anyway. That's all that matters. He is relieved that even if Suk resurrects, he will not be in Korea by then and laughs. Suk is about to blank out, but he opens his eyes. He cannot unlive today. If he does, he loses 3 days. He cannot let the mafia boss win like this. He swims up. The explosives inside the boat explodes. Now it is on fire. He shouts, "Who did this?" At that moment, CEO Kim is grinning in his office. Inside the burning boat, the mafia boss is still alive, trying to survive there. He runs inside the enclosed area. No smuggler men were there as they were supposed to be. He tries to call 911 for help, but CEO Kim responds to the call. Mr. Kim says that it has been a while since he asked the mafia boss to meet him. He then says because of the mafia boss, he realized that he's been letting his guard down too much these days. He adds that he trusted someone who could not even take care of some minor task. The mafia boss then tells Mr. Kim that he can explain himself, that he was not trying to run away. If Mr. Kim saves him, he will make sure to unlive that girl. Mr. Kim tells him that he is not holding on to that girl anymore. There was only one thing he was worried about. That is if the public found out the relationship between the CEO Kim of the Dowan Group and a lower-class mafia boss. Mr. Kim just wants to prevent that from happening. He asks the mafia boss what to do now. Unliving the girl or unliving the mafia boss? He says he unlives the mafia boss now rather than unliving the girl who's already at a hospital. There are still bombs exploding. Mr. Kim tells him something about Mr. Hyung-sik Cha, Yeren's father, whom the mafia boss was ordered to search for. The mafia boss's eyes widened. He starts to cuss Mr. Kim, furiously hearing whatever Mr. Kim has told him about Yeren's father. Then the boat explodes and it starts to sink. The boat has completely sunk before Suk's eyes. Suk also drowns, saying it is all over now. He is relieved that no one will bother Yeren anymore. Yeren in hospital goes into cardiac arrest. While drowning, Suk wishes to share his resurrection ability with Yeren, as much as she needs. On this side, Yeren's condition is getting worse. Then she suddenly opens her eyes and tears up, thinking of her Mr. Suk. Today is April 18th. 3 days later, on the 21st of April, Suk's apartment room is empty. The news says the 20 gang members that were involved with Yaren's falling incident have been arrested. The news refer Yaren as Miss A. We then see that Yaren is watching this on the news, and the nurse alongside her tells her that it is good that those evil criminals got arrested. Yaren says that despite all that, she still isn't happy. She should be happy that the people who got her and her family are now caught, but she's still worried Mr. Suk, who was being tortured. As she is about to say something, that is when the doctor comes into the room and asks Nurse Sue if she was able to contact Yaren's guardian, to which Nurse Sue said that she tried, but to no avail. This shocks Yaren, as the doctor bickers about how careless this guardian of hers is, and how he has gone and started ignoring them at such a crucial point. A shocked Yaren then asks the doctor and Nurse Sue about who they are referring to as her guardian, because her father, who is her guardian, is currently missing, so who are they referring to as her guardian? The doctor then gets confused by her sudden questioning, and tells her that they were referring to the man who lives next door to her. This shocks Yaren once again. Later in, we see that Yaren looks very sad, and Nurse Sue tells her that they should get her temperature checked for evaluation. However, Yaren is still stuck up about what happened to Mr. Suk and doesn't respond to her. Nurse Sue understands her situation and empathizes with her. She also asks Yaren if she is still worried about her next-door neighbor, and tells her that it should be fine, and that there must be some reason as to why he hasn't come to the hospital to see her. Right then, we see the news on television doing a breaking news broadcast. On the broadcast, it is said that the gangster, Mr. Jung, who was supposedly the leader of the many people who were arrested earlier in the day, was found without life near the port. It is assumed that the boat he was on, while trying to escape South Korea, had suddenly exploded, and that is what caused his demise. Another news coming out of that was that a man's, assumed to be in his 20s, body was also found lifeless in that scene. Looking at his body, the police are suspecting that he was shot, as he has several gunshot wounds in his body, alongside other injuries. This news totally breaks down Yaren as a whole. We see then that the time and days keep passing by, but Yaren was still her broken down and depressed self, as she is losing will to go on. We then see that it is night time on the 21st of April, and the nurse, Ms. Sue, tells Yaren to go to sleep and greets her off. However, Yaren stops her and tells her that there is something that she wants from Sue. Later on, we see that she had made the request for Ms. Sue to take her to the apartment she lives in. We then see that Nurse Sue has driven her there. We then see that they are going upstairs to where Yaren and Mr. Suk's flats were located. Nurse Sue tries to tell Yaren that they should go back now, and that she should rest her body now. However, Yaren wants to stay a little longer. We then see Yaren standing before Mr. Suk's door and hesitantly opening it up. As she does open it, Yaren thinks about the dream she had before waking back up. Yaren thinks of how she was drowning in that dream, drowning into nothingness. It was a free fall and there was nothing stopping her. But she was then caught by a hand. The hand belonged to Mr. Suk, who told her that she needs to stop sleeping and wake up. He told her that she is not a kid, she is a high schooler, and she should mature up and act like one. Mr. Suk then picked her up and went down into that nothingness himself. Yaren then says that after she woke up, she had the feeling that she could never see her mister again. We then see that the flat is empty too, and Yaren breaks into tears seeing that, and tells Nurse Sue that they should probably go back now. As she walks back while crying, Yaren knew what had been done. She knew that Mr. Suk had sacrificed himself for her, to give her life. She realizes that for her life, Mr. Suk had to give up his own. However, at that very moment, we see that Yaren's Mr. pass her by, which leaves her bamboozled. Mr. Suk makes a call to the hospital and tells them that he is the guardian to Cha Yaren and gets to know that she woke up. Right then, an emotional Yaren calls out to him. Mr. Suk looks back at Yaren and asks her if she's fine and how did she get here. Yaren is still in a state of shock, so she asks Mr. Suk if he really is her mister, to which Mr. Suk says that it's a bit rude of her to forget his face after 2 to 3 days of not seeing each other. Yaren still can't believe it, so Mr. Suk states that it could be possible that she doesn't recognize him because of the brand new hairstyle. We then see Yaren running towards him and embracing him in a tight hug. Yaren gets emotional and starts crying, while Mr. Suk smiles and tells her that it's okay and not to cry. We then see in a building a woman is conducting a presentation for someone. She says that according to her research, she found that the police had reported to the media that an unidentified 20-year-old man's body was found at the port, alongside Mr. Young. She says that it is almost certain that the man is none other than Cha Hyung-sik's neighbor. She then presents the CCTV footage they secured from Inhwan Capital, and there it shows that Mr. Suk had gone to their office to attack the people inside it. However, as shown in the footage, his attack didn't work out well, and he was beaten up pretty badly by Kong YJ. Then it's shown that Kong YJ had surely gotten rid of him for good by torturing him. However, to their surprise, the man had came back a few days later, this time with a new hairstyle. He taunted the group into attacking him, and he ended up taking his own life there. But recently, she learned that the same man was spotted alongside the daughter of Cha Hyung-sik at the hospital she was admitted to. CEO Kim listened to all this and asks Assistant Minister Joe if she believes in ghosts and miracles, to which Assistant Joe gets confused. CEO Kim, however, is amused, and he says that he thinks the Mr. Suk might have the ability to come back to life when he passes away. We then see that a few days after all of this, Cha Yerin is now healthy enough to get discharged from the hospital. Nurse Sue says that she really enjoyed talking to and taking care of Yerin, and also asks if Yerin is going to leave with the handsome guardian of hers, referring to Mr. Suk. Yerin gets a bit flustered up and says that she plans on going alone, and then surprises Mr. Suk. Later, we see that Yerin has arrived to the place where she lives, and instead of going to her flat, she instead goes to see Mr. Suk instead. However, as she enters the room, all she sees is a very messed up place. The place is dirty, the utensils are all dirty, cigarette butts are stored up in the room, and Mr. Suk is sleeping in an unorganized bed. Yerin understands that this was the reason why he didn't come out when she was waiting outside. Yerin then checks the time to see that it was already 3:30 p.m., and Mr. Suk was supposed to receive her at 3 p.m. at the hospital. We then see Mr. Suk moved in his sleep and touched his crotch, which embarrasses Yerin, who was watching, and she immediately went out of the room. Yerin was then pissed at herself for even thinking that a man like Mr. Suk was likable and somewhat handsome. Yerin then decides to go back to her own flat and clean up there, because when she left, the house was very untidy and a mess. Suddenly, as she touches the doorknob, all the memories of how messed up her house was, the damage and everything come back to Yerin, and she says that those memories occasionally come back to haunt her. However, Yerin musters up the courage to open the door, and what she sees leaves her very surprised. Yerin sees that the house is perfectly clean and tidy. The broken appliances have been switched with good ones, and even the broken windows have been fixed. Yerin wonders just who could have done such a thing for her. Yerin then hears a loud noise, and she realizes that Mr. Suk had woken up from his sleep. Mr. Suk talks about how he is late, and how the high schooler would be pissed at him for not going to take her in time. Mr. Suk also wonders just why did he stay up all night, cleaning the mess inside of Cha Yerin's house, when his own house is an untidy mess. Hearing this, Yerin giggles a little, and we then see that Mr. Suk rushes out of his flat to go to the hospital, but sees that Cha Yerin has already come. Yerin then gives a big smile to him and tells him that she's back. After that, we see that Yerin has cooked a lot of food and they're having it together with each other. Mr. Suk says that she didn't have to do all this, because he planned on buying things for her. Yerin replied by saying that she doesn't want to eat from a man who can't even pay his own bills, and advises him to eat homemade food from time to time instead of having instant ramen like he always does. Mr. Suk then starts eating, and this gets Yerin nostalgic about how her father used to eat here as well. Mr. Suk praises Yerin's cooking a lot, saying that she is a one-of-a-kind chef. They lay down after they're done eating, and both of them admit to eating a little too much for their own good. Yerin then gets a call from someone, and we learn that she has an interview coming up a day later. Mr. Suk says that Yerin is getting popular and that she might become an idol, but Yerin gets offended by this as she is only doing this to find her dad, and giving interviews on TV will take her a long way in achieving that. Yerin then talks about how her father was dumb and trusted bad people. However, in actuality, it's not his fault, he was a nice guy. It's the fault of those who took advantage of him. She also says that she regrets saying all the bad stuff she said to him, and wants to make up for that. After this, Mr. Suk says that he will be going then, but before leaving, he says that Yerin can knock on him if she wants to eat with someone. Yerin likes the idea and tells Mr. Suk that they can eat together more often now that they've got time on their hands. As the door is opened, a policeman comes inside and asks them if Yerin is there. Yerin introduces herself to the police, and the police reply by telling her to come to the police station with him. This confuses everyone a bit, but the police then drops a bombshell regarding Yaren's father. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows?